Then
as he comes down the track,
when he comes down the hill, this is when
trouble.
he's going to get into the side of the 20 car. Right there.
Look at Stephen Wallace in that 77. What a job.
He missed one.
What a job by him, though.
Yay!
11 years later, and that line still gets me every time. Now, with saying that, I think that I and every other kid who grew up watching NASCAR in the 2000s remembers Steve Wallace's time in NASCAR's second highest division. The Busch Series turned into Nationwide Series, now Xfinity Series. And if you look up his name, whether on Google, YouTube, Reddit, anything, you'll see Wallace being the butt of over a decade of jokes. But not many people have ever asked a question, and I'm sure many of you have probably laughed at when you see the title. Was Stephen Wallace really as bad as we remember? Well, I wanted to look at this question in a little more detail than just his crashes, of which I will admit there are many. So let's get into it. To start with, we need to establish Wallace's racing lineage. Steve Wallace is part of the Wallace family, which includes well-known drivers like Mike Wallace, Kenny Wallace, and of course, Rusty Wallace. Rusty being the 1989 Cup Series champion, as well as being a 55-time winner in the Cup Series. At the time of his retirement in 2005, he sat 8th on the all-time win list for the Cup Series. He also is the father of Steve Wallace. So from the get-go, expectations and comparisons were high. He was in a position that not many other drivers ever have been and probably will never be in, being the son of a NASCAR legend trying to make their own career and legacy. You gotta think of guys like Dale Jr. and Kyle Petty when you think of other drivers that have been in this position. So I think that fans, at least to some degree, had some subconscious expectations for him. Not to say that this was an excuse or anything, but rather what some initial views of the driver from fans could have been or may have been. As for his career though, he started extremely young for pretty much every standard in NASCAR history when it came to the top divisions. Now, before that, he started out as a late model driver, and he won the 2004 Snowball Derby at 16 years old. And around the mid-2000s, between the ages of 16 and 18, he jumped from late model racing all the way up to the then named NASCAR Busch Series. In the late model racing years, he only had 3 top 10s in 14 starts between 2004 and 2005 outside of the Snowball Derby. And of those 14 starts, only 6 ever saw him finish the race. So not the greatest start to say the least, especially when you see that he was putting his feet in the proverbial Busch Series waters. While running a lone Busch race in 2005, he did have some success in ARCA. In 4 starts, he had 2 top 5s and 3 top 10s, including a win at Michigan, where he led 84 of the 106 laps run. 2006 saw 8 more starts in ARCA, this time with 3 wins. This also was the year where he drove in the Busch Series for 17 attempts. And while the memes and all make fun of him crashing, all of the time in that series that season, he finished every race. Though his best finish was only an 11th place run at Kentucky. In fact, he only had 5 top 20s all year. So while he finished, it wasn't notable or good. Comparing to his teammate Jamie McMurray, it was night and day. McMurray was scoring top 5s and top 10s and leading plenty of laps. Wallace would have a long way to go to even reach Jamie McMurray's level. Now, I should note that all of his Busch Series career would be under the banner of his father's team, Rusty Wallace Racing. This would be the biggest reason why Stephen both got his big chance and kept it for so long. So when, in 2007, he failed to finish above 12th, and also accumulated 8 DNFs, with 6 of those being directly from crashes, it raised some eyebrows in a bad way. While having no teammates to realistically compare to in his 2007 season, the numbers were arguably worse. And even though he missed 1 race, he still finished 19th in the 2007 Busch Series points. So, 2007 for sure wasn't a good indictment on the young driver's career. Now, 2008 did see some improvement to start with. Around the middle of the season, Wallace sat just outside the top 10 in points. He also had 2 top 5s in a row, starting at Richmond and the second being at Darlington. Pretty talent-based tracks. Crashing DNFs were also down from 6 to 3 in 2008. Still, not great, but a noticeable improvement on the way to a 14th place Busch Series points finish. But yet again, he was outperformed by his teammate, this time David Stremme. Stremme had 5 top 5s and 16 top 10s in the same equipment in just 32 starts, while finishing 11th in points. He also had an average finish of just about 5 positions higher than Wallace. In 2009, the team moved on and brought upon Brendan Gaughan to be his teammate. Wallace got more top 10s in 2009 with 9. This also got him up to 7th in the points, and it also got him to finish 2 spots above Gaughan in the 2009 Nationwide Series standings. At this point, though, there were maybe 15 or so full-time drivers, so it's not really something to write home about. His average finish did go from 20th to 16th, and in respect to this average finish, it was the peak of his career. He also had less DNFs than Gaughan, 5 to Gaughan's 7, and 4 of those were from crashes. Now, 2010 saw both perform about the same. Unfortunately, taking care of equipment was still an issue this far along into his development. While peaking as high as 7th in the points in the middle of the season and the middle of the summer, he still crashed a lot. Of his 7 DNFs in 2010, 5 of them were crashes. This only continued into 2011. While getting an amazing opportunity to drive in the Daytona 500 and even finishing on the lead lap in 20th, this season was pretty much the swan song in his career. A swan song that was completely out of tune. To start with, he had just as many crashes and DNFs as top 10s on the season with 5. He was as likely to crash as to finish in the top 10. He did finish as high as 4th at Montreal, but that was about it. When it came to the team overall, he was outperformed by his teammate Michael Annett, as well as by Kenny Wallace above both of them. While Steve did get 2 more starts with his father's team, once in 2012 and again in 2013, his NASCAR career was effectively over. Rusty Wallace Racing had run out of money. Sponsors effectively withdrew all of their support from the team. With this, the team had to sell off half their equipment and laid off pretty much their entire staff. By 2014, at only the age of 26, Steve was basically back to being a late model driver. Now, between 2015 and 2019, he did get 2 wins in the Cars Tour, so he did make something still out of his post-NASCAR career. As of 2022, though, the 34-year-old driver is listed as a super late model driver on his Wikipedia page, though there's nothing on his racing reference since 2019. So, to the question of if he was as bad as we remember, I would say, yeah, he kind of was. To me, he was a below-average driver bordering on bad in NASCAR who was in way over his head and rushed up way too quickly. I think he showed potential in the late model cars, but when you look at how he performed in similar equipment, he was outperformed by some pretty damning drivers. I get Jamie McMurray outperforming him, but guys like David Stremme, Brendan Gaughan, and Michael Annett are drivers that an average-level driver should be able to beat out. Stremme would even be considered one of the biggest busts of the last 20-plus years in the sport, so that's even worse. Of Wallace's 193 Xfinity Series starts, only 6 were top 5s and 34 were top 10s, a 3% top 5 level and a 17% top 10 ratio. Meanwhile, he only finished on the lead lap 44% of the time he strapped into the car, and DNF nearly 16% of the time. So yeah, when you look at it and add it all up, those raw stats show, and as well as the eye test shows, that he was as bad as we remember. So now, I want to ask you this, because maybe you have a different perspective on it. Was Steve Wallace as bad as we remember, or is he someone who gets overhated? Let me know down in the comments below. While you're at it, leave a like on this video, share this video, and subscribe to my channel for more great NASCAR content, like the NASCAR Weekly Podcast, which is a podcast I do with fellow YouTubers Danny B. Talks, Black Flags Matter, and Eric Estep. It's coming back on my channel exactly a week from now at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, so be sure to tune in. Also, to all my channel members, thank you so much for your support. And until next time, have a good one.